You know, the longer we do Tai Chi, the easier it is to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I know that, I can do that, I've done that a million times. If you fall into that trap, you're not going to continue to grow. You can always improve your Tai Chi. And we've talked about the ideas of improving by moving your whole body as one unit, making the Dantian be the leader. We've talked about distinguishing substantial and insubstantial and putting that together with the idea of being rooted and grounded. Today I want to talk about the idea of putting together rotation, one of those underlying principles, with the idea of keeping yourself open and rounded, roundedness in Tai Chi. We don't have stiff, straight joints in Tai Chi. We want to keep ourselves open and rounded, which allows that energy to flow. There are no tight corners, no stagnation points. I want you to think about putting an egg underneath your armpits and kind of making sure that those eggs don't get squished, okay? We want to keep ourselves open and rounded. Wave hands like clouds is one that's actually very easy to think about being open and rounded because it is a rounded motion, right? You will see new people, however, be very timid and they're keeping their arms very close to their body and not moving the way that wave hands like clouds is meant to be. Remember, we're talking about improving it. If they get this motion first, that's great. Then they can start to improve. Think about starting in this position, being open and rounded, letting that rotation now bring your arms across your body, which allows you to be relaxed, which allows that energy to flow, just like we were talking. We want that energy to flow. We want everything to be open in your body. There's nothing closed down. Part the wild horse's mane is another one that's fairly natural to keep yourself open. As you come into your part the wild horse's mane, however, make sure that you're not straightening out that back arm. If I do the part the wild horse's mane here, this is a temptation that people have, is to straighten that back arm like this. And what that does is that actually brings that arm behind you, your hand behind you, and you're not in a good position for what part the wild horse's mane is supposed to be doing. When you do that part the wild horse's mane, this lower hand actually stays in front of your body and your arms stay nice and rounded. That rotation moving from the Dantian should help you avoid that straight arm effect of pushing it backwards. You're not pushing it backwards. You're just allowing your body to rotate into that motion and then coming into your part the wild horse's mane. If you think about the companion movements to part the wild horse's mane, brush, knee, and fair lady, they're all on the basis of chi walking. The only thing that's different is where your hands end up, right? With brush, knee, now your hands end up here instead of here. With fair lady works the shuttle, your hands end up here. In all of those instances, you want to keep your arms open and rounded and not allow, let's look at brush knee. As we go down to brush knee, don't allow these elbows to collapse and keep yourself like this. You want to come into your brush knee still rounded. You don't want to straighten out this arm. You want to keep brush knee, you want to keep that rounded effect in both arms. Fair lady works the shuttle. Same thing, just because you're working above, kind of at head level, you still need to think about, am I open and rounded? Am I relaxed? Am I using the rotation to help me come into that movement? We want to marry the two ideas of that roundedness with rotation. Let's look at just a simple pushing chi that you might not think of rotation, right? With pushing chi, think about what we said, being rooted and grounded, feeling the substantial and insubstantial change, letting the dantian dictate really how far out those arms go. If we allow the dantian to be the leader, it's much easier to keep yourself rounded. You're not trying to push forward like this. That's a stiff joint. We don't want that. We want the arms to be nice and rounded with no locked joints. But we also want to make sure that this upper joint, not just this elbow joint, but the shoulder area remains open as well. Because I could do push chi like this, and my elbow joint is rounded, but I'm locked in too tight at the shoulders. Remember that egg underneath your armpits. And now if you think about rotation just a little bit, okay, marry that with the idea of your dantian. You are pulling that, you're rotating just a little bit to the right as you pull back and just a little bit to the left as you come forward. You have a circular motion with your arms, with your hands. It's not a linear motion. So a simple move like pushing chi, you really have to focus and improve. Let's look at Repulse the monkey. That again is a move that's easily interpreted as straight arms. If we have straight arms like this is not, yeah, your egg isn't being squished, but you have really locked joints and your shoulders actually coming up, restricting into your neck area. Whereas if you let your arms be nice and loose, let the elbows drop, one of our 10 essentials, right? Shoulders are dropped, elbows are dropped, keeping the arms nice and rounded as we repulse the monkey, keeping ourselves rooted and grounded. This now becomes a very much natural, more relaxed motion. We rotate from the dantian, which helps those arms just move the way they're supposed to move. Now, as we practice our Repulse the monkey, it becomes a much better movement, better in terms of not just how it looks, but the benefits it's providing for you. If you keep yourself open and rounded, you're going to allow that stress relief to really happen in your body. Nothing is going to become stagnated. Everything can move much easier. Let's look at the ward off sequence. When we do ward off, it's easy to start by holding that ball, stepping out, ward off. This motion here, grasp the bird's tail. Even the way I teach it with my newbies, how I teach lowering your elbows. What happens when I watch newbies, however, is when I say drop the elbows, they do this, and they close themselves down completely. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. As you ward off and grasp the bird's tail, you still have to keep yourself open and rounded. You don't close it in like this. So holding that ball, stepping out, keep yourself open, using that rotation, grasp the bird's tail, keep yourself open, roll back. The rotation is what's pulling your arms down. Keep pulling your hands to your hip, not pulling your arms down. You want to keep that openness, rotate and press. And now here's our pushing chi that we already practiced, making sure that our elbows are not locked into our body. They're dropped, but they're not locked. There's two different ideas. If you think about the movement of snake creeps, right? Rotation, roundedness, that doesn't intuitively speak with our snake creeps, right? We want to think about a linear motion. We're moving this direction. But there's a lot of roundedness in that snake creeps. Bring your weight over to the right, forming your bird's beak. Think about keeping your elbow dropped, okay? We don't form a bird's beak like this, and we don't form a bird's beak like this. It's open and rounded. Then as we step out, keeping ourselves rooted and grounded, substantial on that right leg, this clockwise circle, letting that left arm stay open and turn. Now, just like with Part the Wild Horse's Mane, this hand stays in front, keeping itself rounded. Don't just let it drop. Control that hand as you come down. It stays in front. And now we bring our weight onto our left and come into our pheasant stance, which again is not pheasant stance like this. We're not all tied up into ourselves. We're still open and loose and allowing that body to be relaxed. When you do your snake creeps, thinking about the rotation part of that, as you form your bird's beak, this rotation here, leading from the dantian, this actually helps keep that roundedness, openness in your snake creeps movement. In a similar movement, single whip, which if you think about it, snake creeps is really a squatting single whip, right? If you come into your single whip, it's almost the exact same movement. Look at it, except now instead of doing a clockwise circle, this left hand is actually doing a counterclockwise circle. Forming your bird's beak, think about being open and loose. Now a counterclockwise circle, stepping out and settling into your single whip, allowing yourself to keep this arm nice and bent, not straightening it out like this. The rotation actually pulls your torso a little bit on the diagonal. You're not open like this in single whip. This is a very difficult, not relaxed stance. Even if I drop my elbows, it still feels tight. When you step out into your single whip, your torso rotates, your dantian moves, which allows your whole body to move in unison. Remember, our shoulders and hips need to be in unison. They need to be moving together in harmony with each other. So as we look at these different movements in the form, think about improving them by focusing on being rounded. Stop, take a moment, just practice Part the Wild Horse's Mane and make sure that your lower hand is actually in front of your body and that you're not straightening. Just practice one movement. Think about being rounded, and then think about how that rotation helps you maintain that relaxation and that roundedness. So as you work on improving Tai Chi and not falling into that trap of thinking, oh, I know how to do it, concentrate on being rounded and how rotation helps everything relax and helps that energy flow, which makes you a better you. And you can say thank you to Tai Chi.